Star versus the forces of evil is ended, and I am gonna talk about it and tell spoilers. If you don't want to hear spoilers, then get out of here. This was the only US production I was following, because I think actual Occidental cartoons are shit, especially in the visual and character design aspects. Grotesque characters everywhere, a pain for my eyes. Star vs. the Forces of Evil wasn't so. It has attractive characters and was kind of funny. Something I liked about it from the beginning was that even when this is another story about someone who comes from another dimension and has extraordinary powers, we didn't have that eternal cliché I am tired of, where the new stranger has to hide her powers because it could be a scandal if people in Earth know about it, and only a few chosen ones know the secret and help to hide it. No, what happens here is that everybody knows that she came from another dimension. Everybody knows that she has superpowers and even has fun with them. That saves a lot of time, cause we don't have lots of episodes of the Stern hiding her powers in situations we have already seen thousands of times. But the first season was not great. It was funny, but didn't make me feel interested in the universe of Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Those eternally failed attacks of the monsters trying to get the wand were repetitive and pathetic. The only interesting thing was in the end when Toffee appears. The second season was that makes it all more interesting, and the events began to happen little by little outside the boring and ordinary Earth. Here is when we get the Yarko, the completely justified relationship between Marco and Jackie, which was subsequently ruined by the power of the script. Here we had greater fights in the dimension of Muni, and we knew about the existence of Eclipsa. I thought Eclipsa could be the main villain who was making moves from the shadows, but I failed in my hypothesis. This season I was hooked. The third season started very strong with a great battle that finishes definitely with Toffee. I thought in this season we would have a story arc with Marco in the quest to meet again with Star after losing her in the end of second season, trying to justify a little bit the Starco that wanted to be imposed. But we even didn't have a story like that. Marco and Star are together again in less than 3 episodes to later destroy the relationship between Marco and Jackie without justification. And so, Marco can go and live in Muni with Star. With all the actions located in Muni, things are more entertaining. We have a new world to know. The final battle was good, but I didn't like the villain Meteora. She was just a cave woman destroying everything, who ended like a cute baby just because, yes, because the power of the script. Star becomes queen in this season, but realizes that the Butterfly family has been illegitimate queens from the beginning. And the fourth final season arrived, and the truth is that it was disappointing. There were no great battles. There were no great villains. Toffee didn't come back, and Eclipsa ended up being all love and sweetness. The whole season was relaxed chapters, just a few action. Almost everything was focused on developing the triumph of the forced Starco and the disappointing final battle. Only one positive point I find in this final battle, which is that it doesn't use that cliché that puts each and every single character that have been in the series involved in the final battle. Thank you for giving me something different at last. But in the negative, we have that the final villain is weak. I mean, it is Mina, another character of little brain and very one-dimensional, who does what she does just because of the obsession of fulfilling a task given by Queen Solaria a lot of years ago. It is a very bad motivation and a very bad villain. In this final part, we have very little action, enemies that are simply an army of cloned armors, and the final movement is a handful of characters reciting something that will definitely destroy magic. That finishes with the Great War. Just a few words. Well, now I am gonna say some opinions about the whole series. There was a lot of emphasis on romance in this series, but I find it very badly handled. I believe that art doesn't have any kind of social responsibility, and animation is an art for me. However, if the author wants to adjust his work to reach more public, and mainly younger public, then it will lose artistic value, because he cannot show everything that comes from his heart, cause he has restrictions. That's why Star vs. the Forces of Evil, it's a good series, but reduced in artistic value, and is a work that, being directed for children, it does have a certain responsibility in terms of its content. And the message it has given about romantic relationships, I found it terrible. The characters here not only constantly change their feelings, they actually change sentimental partners in only one chapter, like when Tom cuts Star and shortly after, even though Star was supposedly against the end of the relationship, she becomes Marco's girlfriend. Makes it look acceptable and without consequences to be unfaithful, like when Marco kisses Star while she is still Tom's girlfriend, and she never tells Tom about it. It's Tom who discovers it, and Star ends up unpunished. And not only that, Tom is the one who feels guilty that it happened, because he feels that connection was made because of the dance of the blood moon that he made them dance. Okay, but that doesn't justify that Star has been hiding the kiss with Marco. There the message is that it is okay and without consequences not to be honest with your partner. Another bad message for children is when Marco and Kelly had a relationship that was incredibly fleeting. Is that really a good message for children? The message that you can kiss and exchange every person you find and showing them that the consequences of it are null? I also didn't like that they destroyed that good romance of Jackie and Marco, cultivated for years, and that was mutual, in order to fulfill the plan of the creator that everything ends in Starco. I think she never could justify that well, and to make it worse, then we can see Jackie later, and surprise, she's bisexual, and now she's in a relationship with a black French girl, to fulfill the Disney's progressist agenda. Will they ever be able to do it in a natural and justified way? That has been an unnecessary scene set by agenda, and to say, hey, Jackie is okay and happy, now love the Starco without remorse. Another unnecessary thing was that meaningless chapter in which Mariposa, the new little sister of Marco, who obviously has that name in honor of Star Butterfly, Mariposa is butterfly in Spanish, who born just because yes and doesn't contribute anything, goes to the dimension of Hekapu, where time passes faster with the baby Meteora. In addition, this happens unjustifiably, simply because Hekapu visits Marco to say, hey, don't go to Muni, it's going to get ugly, and leaves an open portal. I mean, many times things have gotten ugly in Muni, and Marco never received warning, and they were going to close the portals to Muni, so there was no need to warn him, because he would not be able to go anyway. There is once again a bad excuse for babies to grow up in the dimension of Hekapu and show us more LGBTXY situations. Something I did like about the series is that Marco, when he visited that dimension of Hekapu, lived 16 more years, which adds 30 years to his life. After that chapter, he is a 30 years old man dating 14 years old girls. And surprises me that this was not a scandal and that it has not been considered an act of pedophilia. But well, apparently the only thing that matters is the appearance, and since Marco is 30 years old but recovered his body of 14 years old, then it doesn't matter to people. And it is something occidental. Occidental series do nothing wrong. The demons are the Orientals with their perverted anime, right? Although the superficial people ignore that detail, for me, Marco is indeed a 30-year-old man who dates teenagers, and I like that the creator took that risk, and she was lucky that it went well and without consequences, like everything in her creation. This series final could have been epic despite the pure villain and the pure battle, if only there had been some consequence or sacrifice. Everything was solved by the elimination of magic, and after it happened, there was not a big change. They just can't do magic tricks anymore, and now there won't be a method to oppress the monsters. Apparently, that was the main function of magic all the time. The maximum consequence and a brave sacrifice from Star would have been that, without magic, she would remain separated from Marco by not being able to travel between the dimensions. But it didn't happen. That means that there was no consequence in exchange for finishing with all the magic. Zero. So this wasn't an epic ending in any way. It would have been very cool to me that Marco and Star were forever separated at the end. It would have been epic, original, risky, but no. This Starco is something so forced that, although they were already without magic, and everyone in their respective dimension, Marco in Earth and Star in Muni, and without the possibility of opening interdimensional portals, it suddenly happens that the two dimensions, the Earth and the Muni, boom, they merge, and now the people of both places live in the same place, and therefore, now Marco and Star are together again. Why exactly those two dimensions merged, or why the hell did they end up merging? Because the vagina of the creator tells it, and that's all. The funny thing is that in the end, they let Mina go freely. Even there is the lack of consequences in this world. A lot would deserve some punishment, including the imprudent Queen Moon. The villains of each season are all free and became good, except Mina, who is still crazy. But Ludo is good now. Meteora is good now. Even Toffee, who was at the end the best villain of the whole series, was always right. Magic had to be destroyed. And even when he had the most just cause, he was the only one who died, the only one who has been reached by the consequences. Sadly, he left at the beginning of the third season and never returned. I am still waiting for the forces of evil Star was supposed to fight against. I can say that the forces of evil never existed. The most evil thing Star defeated was the racism, or better said, speciesism, to make monsters and humans live together again. Unfortunately, Star versus the forces of evil wasn't as good as I thought it would be, but I liked it a lot. It's better if everything stays this way. It's more healthy that we get no sequels. Bye buddies.